Warped records suck. There's nothing worse than being a record collector and buying a brand new record, opening it up, or pulling out an old favorite, only to find that the record is warped. So what do you do? What do you do when you find your record is warped? Do you put it under some heavy books or some other heavy objects, maybe put it between two panes of glass and sticking it in the oven for a bit? Or maybe you invest in one of those $2,000 machines to flatten the record for you. Or you could also pray for a miracle. But there's one thing you can do that won't set you back too much, and it will help your warped records. I'm talking about the record pie. I've talked a lot about warped records on this channel and some ways to fix them. With the exception of some of those, expensive, $2,000 or $3,000 record flattening machines, there are a lot of solutions that leave a lot to be desired. I've never had much luck in unwarping a record. And anytime I talk about it on this channel, inevitably, one or two commenters will bring up the record pie. I've been intrigued by this for a very long time, so I finally thought, why not? I'll check it out. I'll see if this does what it says it can do. So I reached out to the excellent folks at Record Pie and asked if I could try it out. And lo and behold, they said yes. When they shipped it out, though, I had to go on a mad search for a warped record because I don't have a lot of warped records in my collection. I know I've come across a couple, and what I needed to find were minor warps. And the folks at Record Pie will tell you this, that minor warps are the easiest ones to fix. There are some warps which are incredibly hard, if not impossible to fix. For example, those crazy rippled edge warps. Those are almost pointless to try to fix. After pulling out a number of records from my overflow area, I settled on this one, which had a minor warp, Led Zeppelin's Coda from, I think, 1982. I have my glasses on, so I can't read it, but I think it was 1982 when I bought this. I've since replaced it, but the fact that this had a minor warp on it has always bothered me because I can't remember. I bought it so long ago. I can't remember if it was warped when I purchased it and unsealed it, or if it's something that happened over the years. But either way, it bothered me. I replaced it, and I still have it in my overflow. So I thought, give this one a shot. This will be a perfect test to see if the Record Pie does what it claims to do. Before I get to the test, how does the Record Pie do what it does? Well, it's actually pretty simple. At the top of the video, I mentioned that old trick of taking, a record, putting it between two panes of glass and sticking it in the oven for a little while. It's a little bit like that, but with a lot more engineering behind it. You basically place the record between two heavy plates of metal, and it's protected by those plates of metal by fabric spacers, so it doesn't come into contact with the metal itself. You then slip the whole thing into what looks like a warming bag for pizza. You turn up the heat and you let it do its thing. Simple, right? Well, now get this. The Record Pie actually has a smartphone app that you can download to monitor the temperature. And that's pretty much all it does is monitor the temperature. Now, I wasn't able to try this feature out, and it's not because I don't think there was a problem with the app or the whole process, but I was having some Wi-Fi issues at here at home and could not get the thing to work, couldn't get it to recognize the app, and I gave up. So no big deal, no harm, no foul, because that's, like I said, all it does is monitor the temperature. So I was going to be around. I was going to keep an eye on things anyway. And not that you really need to, once you've set the whole thing up and it's doing its thing, there's really nothing left to do but wait. Once you have your record, you're ready to go, you do the thing, and you wait to see what happens. And this is how it went. Now, I settled for the default temperature setting of 125 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's what they recommend you do. So basically, just as you saw in the video, I set it at 125. I gave it 2 hours, which is what they recommend you start with, like 2 hours, 2 hour, 15 minutes. After the 2 hours and 15 minutes, I stopped everything and I let it rest for 45 minutes before removing it from the pouch. But I felt like it needed just a little bit more baking in the pouch. So, why not, right? So I bumped it up to 128 degrees and figured maybe I'll just give it 90 minutes at this point, which is what I did. After cool down, I took it out, dropped it on the platter, and check it out. I did this with another record that had a similar warp to Coda. That was the Cars Shake It Up. Went back to the default, but this time I let it bake for 3 hours, and it came out perfectly playable. Then I decided to give the record pie a tough one to handle, so I pulled out Blondie's Eat to the Beat. Now, I bought this record maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and it was sealed, and it had that dreaded rippled edge. You can see it right here. I was really, really nervous about putting it on the turntable just to show a before and after, but I'll show a quick one, and I took the stylus off immediately when I saw what it was doing. Now, I wasn't expecting it to fix this record, to be honest. The folks at Record Pie even said that those dreaded rippled edge warps are extremely difficult, if not impossible, to fix. So my expectations were extremely low when it came to fixing this, but I thought I'd give it a shot. And for this one, I decided to push the temperature to 135 and to let it bake for an entire afternoon. And they were right that it didn't exactly fix the warp. But I will say it was reduced by 75%, which is really good considering how bad a shape this record is in. It does make me think if I stuck it in the pouch for, say, another whole afternoon at 130 or 135, that it might have ended up playable at the end. And that's one of the things I love about this hobby. There is no end to the innovations that continue to crop up and that I continue to run across. Things that I never thought were possible, especially warped records and having devices that you can afford to fix them. So is this for everybody? Well, say if you have a relative who's left you a bunch of records that's been sitting in a attic for years and there were a few warps, it might be worth investing in the record pie to take care of them. Or maybe you have a couple of, expensive records, rare records that are warped, and you replacing them would cost too much money. Again, this might come to the rescue. So I know there are folks out there who have purchased the record pie because you're the ones that kind of pointed me to it, and I'm glad you did. I'd love to get your thoughts and your experiences, and so other folks can, hear how the record pie worked for you and under what conditions, how bad were the warps, what temperature, the whole 9 yards. So, leave your comments below. I love hearing from you. And once again, thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next week. And until then, take care of yourself and enjoy your records.